Yes, Beverly, 30 minutes though, and President Xi is someone who almost every leader at this meeting is trying to get a meeting with, and there's 20 influential leaders here at the moment, such as Emmanuel Macron and Rishi Sunak. So 30 minutes, significant. The fact of the meeting itself, I think, is something of a diplomatic coup for Australia, and it appears to have gone very well, judging by some of what Mr Albanese said afterwards.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that a little bit, John. He did make some comments. He also tweeted that Australia will cooperate where we can, disagree where we must, and engage in our national interests. So what is that going to mean for the relationship going forward?
Yes, Beverly. Well, clearly Mr Albanese thought he needed to bring up certain issues, which of course were would not have been popular with the Chinese leader, such as the treatment of the Uyghur people. He also brought up the case of the Chinese-Australian journalist Cheng Lei and Dr Yun, the academic. And he did say in that statement, as you say, that there'll be some things that where we will need to disagree. But he said there were also quite some areas, such as he said President Xi described the two economies as highly complementary. And in fact, President Xi said that he'd been to every state of Australia at least once and had warm memories of that. And in his opening comments, he made a comment about how Mr Albanese appeared to have a very honest and good approach to this, which seemed to be a bit of a slap at the previous coalition government. And they did talk about Taiwan, where Mr Albanese restated Australia's position, which was to support the status quo. Climate change came up as well. So it was a fairly broad-ranging discussion.
Yeah, so it doesn't look like any topic was off limits, but of course several industries have been targeted by China to some economic cost for the country. Do you think this is the moment it could change going forward?
Well, I think that if President Xi has a positive view of this meeting, as it appears is the case, then of course that's the next logical extension of this. Mr Albanese will want to deliver something for his own constituency back in Australia. He will want to get that $20 billion or significant parts of it, which are punitive economic sanctions that China has imposed on our barley and wine and various other products. He will want to get that lifted. So the dollar will, in the end, be the issue where Mr Albanese will say, you need to give me something. You need to give our exporters some relief from your sanctions.
Yeah. You know, John, as you pointed out, Xi is meeting with a number of leaders at the G20. Do you think China wanted to take this opportunity to break the impasse between the two nations?
I think so, Beverly. I think what's happened is President Xi has recently, as you know, as you've covered on your program many times, has got his third term, has clinched a third term from the party heavyweights in the Communist Party in China. And having done that, I think a lot of his rhetoric until then was playing to that local domestic audience to try to get that third term. The very hard rhetoric on Taiwan and other issues in Hong Kong. Having secured that, he appears to have come here to Bali wanting to rebuild some bridges. Certainly with the United States, 3.5 hours yesterday with President Biden was a significant meeting. And then at half an hour today with Anthony Albanese, there were serious questions about whether today's meeting would go ahead. That would have been something of an embarrassment to the new Australian Prime Minister. So I think President Xi has certainly said, here is an olive branch, let's see where we go from here.
Yeah, interesting stuff. John, good to get your perspective on this. Thanks so much for your time.